welcome back. Today we are discussing episode 22 of the Dicely campaign, The Possessor. This was a super freaking cool episode, but before we get in, I gotta do a little bit of housekeeping. This is going to be the last Dicely recap that I post here on Instagram. For the last couple of months, these recaps have been posted here on Instagram as well as on the Dicely D&D YouTube channel, and moving forward, they're just going to be posted on the YouTube channel. I am reclaiming my Instagram account. So make sure that you are following Dicely D&D on YouTube if you want to stay in the loop about these episodes. Now, on to the show. Like I was saying, this episode is wild. We pick up walking back to the inn after we had our giant dragon fight. Draq is very quiet, he is not feeling great. There isn't really a lot of time to discuss this though, because we have an appointment for Abe early the next morning. In the morning, when we head off, Abe decides to leave all of his weaponry and stuff behind. We really don't know what's going to happen at this appointment, and he's concerned that he's going to become possessed by some of these other souls inside of him, and he's afraid of hurting us in that case. So the vibe walking into this temple is stressed. We're all really concerned about what's about to happen. But a priest is there waiting for us. She takes us into this back room and lays Abe out on a bed. She lays her hands on him, and he asks her to call to the blessings of the High Planetari, Vishtak, and Fyra to channel her divinity through. And so she does. She sprinkles diamond dust atop his soul shard, and the fissures that have always been inside his shard begin to reform and reconstitute into a solid. And so begins the coolest freaking series of events I have seen in a long time in D&D. As this priest begins to cast greater restoration on Abe, Abe is transported into a separate plane of existence. It kind of feels like maybe he is transported inside himself, inside his soul shard, and he comes to this dark, murky place, very swampy. It seems to be these kind of old ruins, and Abe is standing in about a foot of water. There are just these kind of small balls of light that illuminate the space around him. And then suddenly a figure steps up to him, another version of himself, slightly taller, slightly darker tint to his steel, but certainly Abe. And this figure calls himself the ferryman. And he looks at Abe and calls him the Possessor. We have known Abe to be a couple different things, the ferryman of the worthy, the chosen, but Possessor is not one we've heard before. And he looks at Abe and he says, "You and I are going to have to fight. But right now, he whose hunger is unending is coming. And neither of us will defeat him on our own." And as they're speaking, deep within the water below them, a faint red light starts to glow, and it grows as it gets closer to the surface of the water, travels slowly upwards, and eventually a larger, bestial version of Abe emerges from the water. This one is 15 feet tall, and his eyes glow that bright red that we have seen from Malden a few times before. It engages in battle with the two of them, the ferryman first, but Abe quickly decides to accept the ferryman's offer and join him in battle against this large, crazy version of himself. Externally, the party stands around while Abe's soul shard begins to flash yellow, greens, reds. Draq, Nell, and Elwyn all reach forward with respective magics, trying to help him, trying to reach him, but we don't know what is happening. We don't know if this magic is actually helping in any way. Back inside, he whose hunger is unending is undeniably winning this fight. It's massive, and it resists everything that Abe and the ferryman throw at it. Not long into the battle, he whose hunger is unending picks up the ferryman, slashes at him, and throws his corpse to the side. And it's very clear that Abe is not going to win this fight on his own. And just as it becomes clear how absolutely bleak this situation is, spectral, ethereal versions of Draq and Nell appear in this space. Shortly thereafter, Elwyn and Gideon also appear. Our desperation to help Abe from the outside manifests itself inside of him as well. And we all battle this creature, this demon within Abe. This is a desperate battle for control of this body. Whoever wins this fight is going to own this body, and if it's not Abe, in the real world, we're in a lot of trouble as well. Even with the entire party there, This fight is not easy. He whose hunger is unending is unbelievably strong. He takes 4 attacks per turn. He has legendary actions, legendary resistances. It heals every round. Both Nell and Gideon are destroyed by this creature, expelled from this plane. Just when things are at the point of no return, Abe steps up to the creature, drives his axe deep down through his center, splitting the creature in half, stabbing its soul shard. And the creature falls. But before it disappears, it looks to Abe and it tells him, "Possessor, you are a false prophet, and you will be found," and then vanishes into dust. Draq and Elwyn disappear from this vision, and Abe is visited by 3 figures. 2 of whom we have never met before, but one we do recognize as Valen, who we met back at the Dunan Mountains. The 3 of them do not look pleased. Valen tells him that the path is closed. Abe can hear voices all around him whispering, "The path is closed, the path is closed, the path is closed." And he can hear a desperate scream, "No," off in the distance. Abe is aware that the entire party is now marked as worthy by Malden. But when Abe looks down at his chest, the soul shard, which has always glowed a bright green, now glows blue. And when his eyes open in the temple in the real world, they too now glow a bright blue. And he reawakens with the party hovered over him, nervously watching. The group is exhausted, and Abe is exhausted, and he's not doing well, hit point-wise. But he does seem to have managed to expel all the other souls from his body. For the first time, Abe is truly himself. Which, I gotta say, is insane. It's insane that Adam tried this, and it's insane that this worked. But, time continues. The day keeps ticking onwards. And that night, the group gets together to discuss what our next steps are and what our group feelings on dragons are. The night before, we fought a dragon and we let it leave with its mate. And certainly both Elwyn and Gideon don't feel great about that choice. We start this conversation with Draq thanking us for not hurting the dragon, which again, I think Elwyn and Gideon kind of look at each other and are like, "I don't think you understand. In the history of this world, 300 years ago, dragons came and attacked East Sicramund. The one area of East Sicramund that was not affected by the dragon attacks was Darakarth, where Draq is from. And it's clear to Elwyn that Draq doesn't actually understand what the desolation was. And his community doesn't seem to be too gung-ho about sharing those stories. And so Elwyn tells him about her experience with the desolation. Because Elwyn is 303 years old. She was 3 years old when the dragons came and attacked. And she tells Draq the story of how her family was destroyed by these dragons. She grew up fatherless because of the dragons. Gideon also tells his own story about his great-grandparents who fought in the War of the Ascension just 50 years ago when the people underground rose up and took back the surface from the dragons. And he tells this heartbreaking story about a chest that his family keeps in the basement. It holds the swords of all of his grandparents' fallen friends. The desolation, the dragons have hurt so many people on this plane. I think that this was an important conversation for the group to have. At least we kind of understand each other's perspectives a little bit better now. And then finally, the next day comes and we decide that it's time for us to leave Valenbridge. Azaria catches up with us as we're leaving, and that brings us to the end of the episode. Lots to look forward to in our next episode, which, if you are interested in joining us live to watch, will be taking place on March the 6th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/DicelyDD. And again, a reminder, this will be the last recap post on Instagram, so please remember to go follow DicelyDD on YouTube so that you can keep up with these. My friends, that is all for now. I hope you are staying happy, staying kind, and as always, remembering to play dicely. Goodbye!